Good evening and welcome to Inside Vaping, your weekly resource for vaping news. Our show airs live on Tuesday nights from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time via YouTube live event at theohmpage.com/live. The show consists of two distinct segments, the first hour streaming right here on YouTube. The second uncensored hour of the show airs exclusively on the Quest Vaping Network at www.vaporstv/questvaping. And our chat should be working via the homepage. I know some people have had issues with the homepage chat in the past. It does seem to be working. Just to get our show started here, I do want to introduce my co-hosts here. I'll start with Dane. Dane, how are you doing this week, sir?
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm doing wonderfully well. Thank you. Great weekend.
Very subtle there with the Patriots reference. Of course, Dane with his Patriots hat and me with my Colts chair. They got stomped pretty soundly this last weekend. So the sting is still there, Dane. I just want you to know that. I don't know how long it'll take me to overcome.
It'll heal in time. Trust me. It will heal in time.
So what's new this week? Anything new vape related or?
Not a doggone thing. It's been a busy week. Everything with the new house and contractors coming in and out and all that type of thing. It's been very, very busy here. Yeah. Of course, we have to make the house very pretty for our house guests coming in a couple of weeks. So we're working on that.
So, Ed, how are you doing this week? Anything new, vape-related? Any news?
Before the vape-related, go Seahawks! Took out Green Bay, baby. Took out Green Bay.
Oh, that's right. That's right. As a diehard Bears fan,
yes,
Ed has now jumped on the bandwagon of whoever beat the Packers.
Whoever beat the Packers.
That's right.
Whoever beat the Packers. Good. I got mail a little while ago. Maybe it was like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. It was this little Cloudpour Mini.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in the process of re-wicking right now. But I took that said Cloudpour Mini, ripped all the guts out, and now it has a DNA 40. Focus.
It's almost like you're a modder or something.
Almost.
It's really weird.
But as small as this is to have a full 18650 in it, I'm like, man, I gotta put a real DNA board in there. And that's what I did. Took only about 4 hours, but it was a lot of trial and error trying to get it right.
And it's about the size of the Vapor Shark as far as like a size comparison.
I want to say almost exactly the size of the Vapor Shark. And here's the little ice stick.
Okay.
And they're about the same. Oh, that bottom shot. There you go. The curve here kind of makes it a little bit smaller on the the ice stick, but a full 18650 battery that I can pull out and put a new one in if I happen to forget to charge. But I'm really good about doing the charge thing. Cool. The charge thing. Cool. But yeah, so, overall, that's what I got this week.
Yeah.
Did you get any vaping stuff?
Sadly, this is the only vape-related piece of gear that I got. I got the Coil Master. Just came in the mail today. Excited to try this thing out. I know a lot of you guys already have them. This does come with coiling poles for 1 millimeter, 1.5, 2.0, 2.5, and 3 millimeter coils. And it looks like a pretty nice little piece of kit, so I'm excited to try that out. Other than that, as Dane aptly put it, I have the crud. So I'm starting to get sick. I have my Hall's Defense cough drops here, and I've got the Ricola cough drops over here. So I have options. And the vape stuff, not so much. I've been trying to lay off the vaping for now because I don't know.
Are you gargling? You should gargle.
No, what should I gargle, Dane?
We don't want to say that on a family show.
Salt water?
Yes, salt water.
Peroxide? Diluted peroxide?
A little bleach.
Gasoline.
There you go. So I figure it's time to introduce our first guest here. Of course, many of you who watch Inside Vaping or follow the Quest Network are familiar with Jibba. Jibba, you have a show, The Eclectic Epicureans, correct? And
That is
airs when? Go ahead and...
Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern on
Okay.
Quest Vaping.
Great. Vapors.tv/Quest Vaping. But Jibba is here tonight for a very important reason. Every year he participates in St. Baldricks charity drive. Tell us a little bit about St. Baldricks, Jibba.
St. Baldricks came about in 1999. These three colleagues, Tim Kenny, John Bender, and Enda McDonald, they wanted a way to give back in return for all the good fortune they were having in their business. So they challenged each other to shave their heads just on a whim, sitting in a bar for kids' cancer. And they held the event on St. Patrick's Day in a bar. And that first year, they raised like $100,000 with all their business contacts. They continued that all the way through 2002. They reached their first $1 million in total, which is a lot of money, you figure, in 3 years. And then in 2005, they decided to become an independent foundation. They raised over $5.3 million in 2005, but they became a nonprofit. And that meant that they could raise this money and not have it be hacked apart by the government, and they could get it out to different organizations. By 2012, they reached $100 million in money that they raised. So you figure 13 years, they raised $100 million in funds that they paid out to places like St. Jude's and other medical universities and studies and organizations to help fund cancer research and help get people studying oncology and specifically children's cancers. And that's actually the year that I first got involved was 2012. Some of you may remember I was doing the Noobs Hour on the Total Vaping Network.
Yeah.
It's where I used to read the news, and I'd wear a shirt and tie and do a banana phone dance in my boxers and stuff. And I was trying to figure on a lark. I'd grow out my hair and beard, and I would just because normally I keep it high and tight and everything neatly coiffed, and I just figured I would do it just to get my viewers, involved in a gag, like, hey, how should I do this or whatnot? And then people said, are you raising money? And I said, well, if there's a way that I could raise money for charity, just by shaving off my head, I would do that. And that's when Matt Hollingshead, who at the time was just a viewer of the show, but he owns B Liquid in Taos, New Mexico, he said, do the St. Baldricks. Our fire department does it every year. So that's what started it. So in the first year, I said, you know what, I'll make a goal of $1,000 and I'll get people to donate. And I'll try to raise some money. And I made $153 that year. That first year, it was. But again, it was a couple of family members and some vapors. But by 2013, I vowed I was going to just really hit it hard and try to get a lot more people involved. So I set my donation goals the same, $1,000, but this time I added in like caveats, like I'd wax my legs. I'd have my wife wax my legs if I reached the goal, because who doesn't want to see me in pain, So. So I set it at $1,000, and we did a little auction, and some people donated vape gear, and a company, Fusion Vapor, actually got involved. They named a juice for a month that if you bought that juice, 50% of all the proceeds they would donate to the St. Baldricks in my charity. And that first year, they donated $1,500. My goal was only $1,000. They donated $1,500, but we made $3,035 that year. Wow. And that year, actually, Amanda KP said, like a couple weeks before the shave, said, I'll come on and shave with you. And that gave me an idea for last year's event, which was, hey, maybe I could get a bunch of people involved also, and they can bring in their little subgroup of friends and viewers and stuff. And I got a couple of people from the Power Vape Network and Sybil, who was actually on Freak Show at the time, but she had joined Quest Vaping right before the event, but just got people involved. And I got, it was cool having women involved too, because, guys shave their head every day.
That's
they just
what Mike
do.
Getz in chat says. He says he shaves his head every other week and no one gives him money for it.
And nobody gives you money for it, right? But when you see a woman shave their head, you go, wow, that's a big thing. So
that's right.
In 2014, I set my goal to 1,500, and I said, if I reach the goal, I'll wax my armpits. I'll have my wife wax my armpits. That should be painful. And through the auction, which raised $6,000, and again, my goal only being 1,500, and then through the personal donations, we raised $11,201.
Wow.
Last year.
That's great.
And I held the event on April 3rd, and as of the close of April 3rd, our little vape community charity event was the #1 grossing virtual event for St. Baldricks. By the end of the year, they had 1,094 virtual events. We finished number 3.
Yeah, that's exceptional. So
100%
Vape
again, contribute.
And I hate to cut you off, but we got to keep it moving here too.
Yeah.
You're doing it again this year. Obviously, if you take a look at the screen here, the link to Jibba's page is at the bottom. We do also have a web slideshow here to show you. So this is what it looks like on St. Baldrick's site. There's a nice, easily clickable donate button, and the process is pretty self-explanatory.
It's really easy.
The participant role is Shavy. So that is Jibba's official title.
That's what I am.
The contest.
I am a Shavy. Now, this year's goal is up to 2,000. I figured last year we crushed it. We could do it again. Again, we got Fusion Vapor will be on board. They'll pick the month that they name as my charity of the month. This year we have hooliganvapes.com for the month of March is going to name a juice, and they're going to give 100% of the proceeds of the juice that they named for March to the charity. We're going to hold an auction again. We'll have all these details as the time draws nearer. But again, it's anything from $1 up. And if you don't have a debit card or a credit card or anything like that, you can go there and you can download a send-in form where you can mail in a check or or a money order or whatnot. Or contact me. If you contact me either through St. Baldricks, you can send me an email through that page, or at come to the Eclectic Epicureans on Thursday nights, and I'll give you my email address or whatnot. I've had people from other countries who couldn't link up to St. Baldricks because they were out of the country. Yeah. They mailed me cash, which I don't recommend you do. But then I've taken it and I've made that donation on their behalf to the site. I don't like to handle the money, which is why it's great. St. Baldricks makes it very easy to be a virtual participant by handling all the cash. And if you're a business and you wish to donate, they have the forms that you can download to take your tax credit and stuff like that. So, but just a real quick point before we move on. As of today, St. Baldricks has raised $154,552,703. That's been put towards 820 grants at 329 institutions in 22 countries.
Wow.
Only 4% of all federal money from the United States for disease research in this country goes towards childhood cancer research. St. Baldricks really does their part in making sure that they fund that. Let me see here. Childhood cancer is completely unique from adult cancers. It requires a special kind of study. And as a charitable organization, St. Baldricks has one of the lowest administrative operating costs. 20.5% of all the money they take in goes towards administrative costs. That means 79.5% they put back out to the funding. That's the lowest out of any charitable organization in the world.
Yeah. And
170...
I take a look at GuideStar quite frequently when I'm donating to charitable organizations because they have a great rating system for that. And if you want to learn some interesting things, I would recommend that you go and you can even look at e-cig advocacy companies and organizations as well. If they're a 501c, they're listed there.
Yeah.
So you can see the salaries of their officers, you can see all the information that's reported, and it's interesting. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. But it's always a good tool to know what percentage of your money is actually going towards the charity itself and not the overhead.
If you go to stbaldricks.org and /financials,
everything
they actually list. Yeah, they're really transparent. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and honestly, we have to move on here. Jibba, thank you very much for being with us this evening.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Best of luck this year. I know you guys are going to knock it out of the park again.
I hope so.
Thanks. Okay, we will see you
Yeah,
later.
thanks for what you do, Jim. That's a great cause there.
Yep.
Thanks,
And
gentlemen.
we are going to go ahead and try to get Varos on the line here, and I'm going to transition over. We do have a straw poll question this evening. There's obviously many major meets going on this year, and we'd like you to participate in the straw poll. I just posted a link in chat. The link will also be in the replay. How many major vape meets will you be attending? And I'm going to go ahead and give Varos a call now.
Yeah, well, we put this question up a little later in our broadcast today. Ed is going to be talking about a major upcoming event here that was just announced very recently, and we figured we would ask how many people are going to go to vape meets now this year, because there happens to be so many of them during the year and so far across the country. They are everywhere.
All right, and I think we have Jerry Varos Vapor on the line here. Jerry, how are you doing this evening?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing great. Let me go ahead and get this transitioned over here. It's always a good show, Jerry, if it goes off without a hitch. But unfortunately, with these live shows, sometimes there's many hitches to them. But let's go ahead and see. Yeah, we actually managed that one pretty smoothly. So we're delighted to have you with us tonight, Jerry. I've been following your videos for a while, and one of the things I look for in a reviewer is just somebody who takes the time to carefully explain different facets of a device or an atomizer. And when they're doing a rebuild, just takes those extra moments to explain any nuances or idiosyncrasies with a particular rebuildable. I'm not as much into the gimmicky thing. And I like your style of reviewing, and I just wanted to have you on the show so we could talk to you and get some insights into maybe your vaping journey and how you started. So how long have you been vaping?
12 years. And it was interesting because I didn't have anybody in my circle of friends who was vaping, so all I had was Google. And, I'd seen some people, I'd seen some egos, I saw a couple of guys with more advanced mods like a Provariant. I said, geez, I got to try that. And, I was lost in the internet trying to find, where to get this stuff from. And I found a Phil Basardo video. So that was kind of like what led me down the right path. I found Taste Your Juice. There was a lot of good recommendations there. And then I just started watching his videos and got into a little Grim Green. And, I found that enjoyable and was learning so much, and being like the first guy in my circle to start vaping, I wanted to have an outlet to kind of talk about it. And one day I was just goofing around with an RSST, and I shot a video on my iPhone, uploaded it. The next day I had people viewing it and subscribing, and I was like, wow, this is pretty funny. And then that's all she wrote. So I thought, yeah, this is great. I just started reviewing everything I can get my hands on that I had already bought. And became like an addiction. The more people had viewed it and subscribed. And I guess it was just luck that first video, was just putting a cotton wick in an RSST,
Sure.
got some attention, and it kind of spurred me on a little bit,
Well, I think one of the key things here is, you're very easy to understand, and you've got a very clear presentation of things and nice close-ups, and that's something I always look for. Because if I get a new device, 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to try and fiddle around with it. I'm going to look up a build video, because there's plenty of talented builders out here, plenty of reviewers, and they each have kind of a unique approach. But there's some guys that I go to more than others. So, it's good to have those options out there, certainly. And one of my first introductions to vaping, period, was Grim Green. So, similar to you, yours was Basardo, but again, that was kind of how everything started for me. Now, you've got some excellent DNA box mod build videos, and I kind of overlooked them for the longest time, and then one day I thought, well, maybe I should take a Hammond box and try putting an OKR in it or a DNA or something like that. So I watched them. Did you think you were going to get into modding, or do you have any plans to continue to do this with other chips like the Yeehys and some of the other ones?
Yeah, I'm thinking about a Yeehy now, one of the SX chips, and just kind of a thing. The DNA 40 came out, and to be honest with you, I just didn't have the money at the time to plunk $250 on a Hana or even a Vapor Flask. So that's what got me to do it. And 30 years ago, I was an electronic technician fixing stuff on a bench. It's been a while, but at least I had some. I think electronic skills are what scares most people away as far as soldering and stuff like that. It's really not that hard, and I'm using like a dinky 30-year-old soldering iron. But the ability to get the switches where you want to get them, and the display, and you have so many choices and enclosures. I mean, I'm actually more apt to build another one of these before I buy another mod, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And, we've all heard about quality control issues with different mods. It's kind of nice to know things from the inside out. And our own Ed the Green over there is a modder. And, of course, he's made the hashtag and the spider. And he's a DNA 40 guy as well. And, that's something that's always intimidated me. I've been afraid to take a soldering iron to a board, because the only exposure I had to any kind of modding was in like the game console world to put a mod chip on consoles. This was it's kind of a nefarious activity. This was 3 or 4 years ago, but still, that's about it. And I had the desoldering iron too. That one was scary. When you had to take the solder out of a component and replace it. I'm sure this is really simple stuff for a lot of people, but you also did a review on the K-Fun 4. Are you still using the K-Fun 4? Do you find yourself using it a lot?
Yeah, I do. I know this is kind of controversial. I mean, the comments I get, people either love them or hate them. And, part of it's the price point, and part of it's the little spring and the issues that you get when you go, especially when you're using this in temperature control mode and you're wrapping really low on coils. The spring's kind of a disappointment, but I like it. I think you get much better juice flow the way it's designed. In fact, this nice little juice flow control. I'd always had a problem when I flew that whenever you get to where you're going, you have a bag full of juice leaks out of your atomizer because of the pressure change. This actually worked. I took over the weekend. I had like a 4-leg trip there and back, and this thing didn't leak once. I just shut down the flow control, got nothing out of it, so that was kind of a nice thing. But I like the quality of it. I don't mind spending this kind of money because the machining and the thoughtfulness that went into it. It's worth it to me, and I think it's a good vape. I mean, people will argue like the K-Fun Lite is still probably, I think slightly ahead of it in flavor. Maybe it's the draw, I don't know. I just like the features. I really like it. And I'm surprised. I saw Rich and Eng had a review on a clone of this for $40, and I didn't expect them to come out that fast with a clone. And they cloned everything down to the packaging, the seals, the poster inside. It was unbelievable.
Oh, they're getting really fast with that stuff. That's for sure. I mean, I'm sure to the chagrin of many modders, but we'll avoid that subject because I know it is polarizing. But we've got some other questions. Go ahead.
Sure, go ahead.
No.
I had asked Richard. I was just kind of curious. They went to the length of reproducing the packaging. Mm-hmm. And I said it's almost unbelievable. I mean, most people just want to get the device. And he told me, he says, in Asia, it's a thing about saving face. And, it's an expensive mod for somebody in Malaysia. So they still want to look like they're actually vaping on a real K4. So for them, it was very important to replicate everything because they do want to pass the original device, which I found interesting. And, I thought it was China's interpretation of our market as to why they put logos and serial numbers and everything on clones. But it really is more of an Asian thing where they would lose face if somebody thought you were vaping a cheaper, substitute. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty funny because it was unbelievable how far they went.
Yeah, and we actually, while I was watching Plume, somebody was talking about using vapor skins or J-wraps on your devices and how, a lot of people like that because it preserves the finish of the mod. I'm one of these people, and I know this is weird, but you were talking about how they want to save face in that culture, and I'm one of those people that I actually like when my mod starts getting a little bit of wear on it, like from use, good hard use. And the Japanese have a term called wabi-sabi for that. And basically it's perfection through imperfection. And it's an interesting concept when you think about it, because when something becomes yours, like your grandfather's watch, you know, and the scrapes and dings that it might have, it almost means more at that point. And sometimes I view my mechs that way. I know it's sappy to think that way, but at the same time, that's just the reality. So I think you had a question for Varos, Dane.
I did. And first off, let me say I am a big fan. I have watched many of your videos, and your walkthrough of the K-Fun Mini helped me immensely, because I had one and I kept ruining the build on it all the time. But your build video actually got me through that K-Fun Mini big time.
Oh, thank you. Good.
What device did you start out on, and was there any particular thing that influenced you to try vaping?
Yeah, I mean, I had quit smoking for 5 years, and I went back slowly. You know, when you travel a lot, I mean, that's kind of a thing when you're not on the road. Everybody smokes, so I gradually crept back into it, and I knew it was just getting bad. And I saw a couple of people doing it, and you know, I just started, like I said, doing the research on it, and to me, it just made much more sense as a safer alternative, because I like to smoke. I always knew I was going to be at risk of going back and smoking. So the first device I had, again, it was on Passardo's, you know, recommendations. It was like an Ego, a Vivi Nova, I think, and then a Z-Max right after that. You know, so that was the hot setup back then for me.
It was. That's very true. We have a few other questions here that we ask every guest that we have on, and these are completely unvape related, but it gives our viewers an insight into the person, if you will. So here we go. We'll fire these up. What was the last gift you gave someone?
The last gift I gave someone, I think it was a bottle of wine to one of the guys that works for me.
That's very, very nice. And this is the one that always stumps everyone. Well, not stumps everyone, but they always want to change their answers. If you could invite 3 people, dead or alive, to dinner, who would they be and why?
My dad, Teddy Roosevelt, and dead or alive, huh?
Yep.
I'm stalled. So my dad, Teddy Roosevelt, and I don't know.
I guess it's dinner for
That's
3.
a good one. Huh?
I guess it would be dinner for 3. You, your dad,
Maybe
and
dinner
Teddy
for
Roosevelt.
3, yeah.
Yeah. Teddy Roosevelt is an interesting choice. He was a very captivating character. I mean, from reading his a couple authorized biographies that came out over the years, I mean, he was a fascinating guy.
Morris.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess
He's a local hero. You know, I'm a Long Island guy, so you know, Sagamore Hill, his house is not too far from here.
Yep.
Well, that's true. And the last one, if there was a movie produced about your life, who would play you and why?
Because, you know, I'm 51, he's 51, it makes sense. You know, we have a resemblance.
Oh man, we have some other questions that we sometimes ask. I'll reserve those for later in the show.
Yeah.
I'll spare you the indignity. That's for after hours.
Okay.
So we've got our first story of the evening, and of course you are our guest panelist tonight, Varos. So if you have anything to add, please feel free to just interject.
Sure.
All right, Dane.
Yeah. It comes from Bloomberg, again, major media, spending some time on E-cigs again this week. GlaxoSmithKline are lobbying on e-cigarettes. Glaxo, man, that name really gets me every time. I'm going to call him GSK, is pushing for more stringent regulation of electronic cigarettes. which compete with its Nicorette gum and other smoking cessation products, of course. According to emails from a company executive in December, representatives of the EU governments and EU parliaments reached an agreement that the strongest e-cigarettes would need authorization as a medicine. This would apply to e-cigs with a nicotine strength of more than 20 milligrams per milliliter. The EU Parliament is scheduled to vote next week on the compromise accord. Glaxo also sought assurances that revised directive will apply to e-cigarettes already on the market to ensure a ban on advertising, according to company comments included in a draft of Article 18 of the Tobacco Directive. British American Tobacco PIC this week started a digital and television advertising campaign for the Vape e-cigarette brand, which is VYPE, which, quite frankly, I've never heard of. Safety is our number one priority, and we support the smoker's right to choose from a selection of products that have well-established safety and efficacy in helping them quit smoking, Simon Steele said, a spokesman for London-based GSK, in an emailed statement. All nicotine-containing products, including e-cigarettes, should be reviewed and regulated to the same standard of safety. That brings in Big Tobacco, J&J, which makes the Nicorette line of products in all markets outside the U.S., is also strongly in favor of regulating all non-tobacco nicotine products, including e-cigarettes, as medicines. Caroline Almeida, a spokeswoman for the New Brunswick, New Jersey-based company, said in her emailed statement, "The best way to ensure all non-tobacco nicotine products are advancing public health by means of effective, high-quality, and safe products. Novartis, the Basel, Switzerland-based company that markets nicotinell gums," wow, that's a mouthful, "lozenges and patches, didn't immediately provide a comment."
So, I find Glaxo's stance on this issue absolutely hypocritical. It's taking away a portion of their market share, and that's why they're vehemently opposed to it. They spent a good 8 to 10 days seriously considering entering the e-cig market. Now, this wasn't in the article that we just read, but they did just consider that, and they decided not to. We're talking, and this is the thing, we're talking about a company that makes nicotine gum, talking about the dangers of e-cigs. So I'm going to show you this slide here, okay? We've got Nicorette up on the screen. Of course, this is over the counter, okay? Now, let's talk about what happened back in 2009, okay? At the Menzies School in West Bromwich, West Midlands in the UK, a 14-year-old boy collapses during school after chewing 45 sticks of nicotine gum. Okay, well, you'll say obvious misuse there. All right. But he obtained this from a counselor. This counselor was a member of DECA, Drug Education Counseling and Confidential Advice. So they have on-scene personnel that specializes in this confidential counseling of students who have behavioral issues or drug issues or they smoke. And they handed out nicotine gum. So this kid chewed 45 sticks of nicotine gum. Each stick contained 2 milligrams of nicotine, which at 45 pieces was equivalent to 180 Marlboro Light cigarettes. How did he get the gum? Of course, it was handed to him. DECA's service manager, Margaret Story, defended the council's policy of handing out Nicorette gum to children without telling parents. She said, DECA is a confidential service engaging with young people, and we do offer nicotine replacement gum to help young smokers quit. Okay, so it's admirable from that perspective. But at the same time, GSK is telling us that we should not, these products shouldn't be on the market when they have a product that is on the market that can also be abused in certain instances. It's ludicrous.
It is, and of course it's confidential until your kid chews 45 sticks of Nicorette gum, and then all of a sudden you get a phone call at your job and you have to go pick up your severely withdrawal-ridden child who has now ingested an ungodly amount of nicotine given to him by the very educators who you entrust to take care of it.
Is it say anywhere who pays for that gum?
Oh, I'm sure it's the state. I'm sure it's.
That's a good. That's a very good question, and it probably is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the state. Yeah, and the other thing too, I just want to bring this up because we've got the screen up here. This product here, Ollie, okay? I don't know if any of you have ever had any experience with this or heard anything about it, but this is GSK's product. I don't know if you're familiar with the anti-cholesterol medicine Lipitor, but this will give you the Lipitor shits. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to say that. But anyway, if you take Ollie, which is a weight loss supplement, one of the only ones that's approved by the FDA for over-the-counter use, it will give you, basically, you will pool oil at that point. So if you want to pool oil all over your sheets at night without being able to control yourself, go ahead and try Ollie.
The medical
Where do I
term.
sign up?
The medical term is diarrhea.
Thanks for the sexy delivery there, Green. Always helps.
Sign
There's
me
nothing
up,
more
man.
sexy.
Nothing more sexy than the oily squirts. I agree.
Oh man. All right, so that's it for the for that story. So that brings us to our next story. I don't know, Varos, did you have anything to add on that one?
No, I was just thinking of maybe it's the next story was that op-ed in the New York Times.
Yeah. That's what we're getting to next year.
It's who's behind. It's this disinformation that's starting to permeate the general public about the dangers of e-cigs. And people walk up to me and say, that's going to kill you. That's more dangerous than smoking. I heard from where? This is the lobby succeeding in spreading this disinformation and using these stories as propaganda to turn the general public against vaping. And the facts are completely unfounded, and my suspicion, obviously with local politicians here in New York trying to ban flavored e-liquid sales and so forth, I have to imagine some super PAC is campaigns and this is legislative throw up just to honor a promise. And, it's unbelievable. So then vaping or not in the community believing this general propaganda. And I think it's damaging,
Yeah, and the irony here is I had a good friend of mine, I talked to him on the phone today, and he was saying that, and this is a very fatalistic approach that I don't share with him. He basically said, all of this is going to be decided behind closed doors, and there's not a thing we can do about it. I understand where he's coming from because so much happens that way, but I still feel that we shouldn't just rest on our laurels or sit idly by and let it happen. There should still be a protest of some kind. There should be a challenge to these stories, these smear campaigns, things like that. And I don't know. It's a very difficult time. It's a difficult time for us. It's easy to bury your head in the sand and just think, okay, well, these cool devices are coming out. Technology is improving. All of this stuff is improving and getting better, and vaping is at a golden age. It's at a great point. As far as like devices and the availability of many different juices, but when you look at the safety of the industry as a whole and some of the things that are coming down the pipe with the Deeming Regs, that's pretty scary stuff. We're going to get into it in a little bit here. First, we're going to cover that New York Times story, and I'm really glad we had you on because, of course, living in New York, you're innately familiar with some of the shenanigans going on, and that's the best word for it, shenanigans. So we've got this first piece. This op-ed piece from the New York Times by Sally Sattel has one of the best explanations of why the FDA's pending regs are flawed and how, if passed, they will potentially destroy a nascent market segment with the potential to help millions of smokers with a reduced harm alternative. So Ms. Sattel writes, and let me go ahead and load this up here. There's no doubt that the initial public enthusiasm over e-cigarettes is waning. A report last year in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine showed that while nearly 85% of smokers believed that e-cigarettes were safer than cigarettes in 2010, that number has dropped to 65% in 2013. So from 85% to 65% in the space of a few years. She cites quality concerns with Chinese manufacturers as one possible reason, and states that while many products may be safe, we lack an effective regulatory regime to distinguish the good from the bad. So Ms. Sattel is for, I think I could say, fair legislation at this point. I don't believe this is a anti-e-cig piece by any stretch of the imagination. Ms. Sattel goes on to pick apart the deeming regulations of the FDA. To appreciate the extent of the unnecessary burden, consider pre-market review. Okay? Companies would have to demonstrate not only that each specific product was beneficial to the intended user, adult smokers, but they would also have to show the consequences to teens and non-smokers. Gathering these data would be vastly time-consuming and expensive. According to the agency's own estimates, conducting the necessary scientific investigations and preparing a pre-market application would take an average of more than 5,000 hours and a cost of more than $300,000. She continues, this would suppress the innovation that is crucial to expanding, refining, and enhancing the safety and appeal of e-cigarettes. So let's talk about pre-market review. It's commonly used to prove that very risky products like drugs, medical devices, pesticides, and aircraft engines aren't harmful. But the point of e-cigarettes is not that they are safe, but that they are significantly safer than regular cigarettes. At this point, Ms. Sattel suggests the following as an immediate alternative to burdensome regulations.
The agency should start by focusing on a few basic steps. It should outline basic good manufacturing practices for the devices and liquids, including limits on the amount of chemicals like formaldehyde and metals like nickel that can be present in the aerosols. It should disallow outright some contaminants in the nicotine solution and flavorings. It should require manufacturers to ensure that all batches of chemicals are traceable and that all sources of hardware are known. The guidelines should also require makers to verify that e-cigarette batteries can be charged safely and that they will operate safely in the course of a normal use. Interim guidelines should require manufacturers to use childproof packaging that carries a warning. This product contains nicotine, which is addictive and is intended for adult smokers only. Also, a mechanism for reporting adverse effects is needed.
Okay, so finally, the FDA should allow companies to tell smokers about the benefits of switching to vaping products. Labels could read, while more research is needed, it's likely that e-cigarettes meeting the FDA interim safety guidelines are much safer than smoking. Such minimal standards are overdue. The longer it takes the FDA to set them, the longer smokers risk confusion about the virtues of switching and keep inhaling deadly smoke. Okay, so this last point, this is the only one that I have a hard time agreeing with, Dane, and it's simply because when you start comparing and contrasting e-cigarettes and traditional analogs, you enter that realm of a medical device with a limited application then. And,
right.
You know, we're not even classified that way, and I don't think there would be a reclassification. And even if there was, we shouldn't be classified as a medical device. I don't believe that's the proper classification. So the majority of Ms. Sattel's guidelines are solid. Let's just go on the record and say that even Altria and Lorillard are opposed to the FDA's pre-market review requirement. They don't want it. The FDA calls this application process a 510K. That's their official term for it. And it's a clunky, cumbersome process. Let's just examine one facet in the FDA's own words. They say, the risk profile of an accessory can differ significantly from that of the parent device, warranting differences in regulatory classification. So let's say you spend the time and the hours bringing a product to market. Let's say it's a mod, okay? The battery that goes in that mod is an accessory for that mod. Even if it's a standard battery, it has to be approved, because now you're going through an approval process for basically what, for all intents and purposes, is a medical device, according to the FDA. Even though it's really not, it's a tobacco product. It's still regulated that way, and it's still handled that way in their processes. Same thing goes for atomizers. It isn't just e-liquids, it's all of these things. And that's why a couple weeks ago when we brought up the whole CASA call to action to change the grandfather date and make it the date of the Deeming Regs, instead of, what was it set for before? It was like 2007, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was February of 2007.
Right. Basically, if they set it at February of 2007, all existing products on the market would be nullified because they have to go through the approval process. It's not going to happen.
No.
Or anything after anything after 2007 would be nullified. With the revised grandfather date, it was what, last year, correct? Was it last?
Correct.
Yeah, so that would be much less stringent. Bottom line, too many regulations, and the FDA deeming regs are just ridiculous as written. That's pretty much all I got, and that's a mouthful, too.
Yeah, and, I'm going to change gears a little bit here because the New England Journal of Medicine is about to publish later this week. It's actually not even later this week. It'll be out tomorrow. Yet another study, this time in the New England Journal of Medicine, shows an alarming amount of formaldehyde present in high-voltage vaping. Granted, once again, the scientists doing this study have absolutely no clue how these devices and atomizers are used, and they most likely burned the wicking material during this study. That doesn't matter. The only thing the public, the regulators, and the health groups will see is the glaring negative numbers that jump off the page here. This certainly will be a front page story in every media outlet, as most negative stories towards e-cigs are.
Yeah, so this is a very Kunigita-esque story, and if you remember Kunigita, and I'm sure you've had these questions too, Jerry, after all of the fallout from the Japanese studies, did you have anybody contact you and say, well, I just read an article that said e-cigarettes are 40 times more dangerous than conventional cigarettes? I mean, it seemed like all of my friends were contacting me and saying that. And it was such misinformation that was presented. And I think part of that, Jerry, is due to their testing process. They're using this automatic antiquated puff machine, which does not allow for rest between puffs and can quickly overcome even the best of pre-made coil open tank systems. So it gives you an unrealistic use scenario. I mean, how do we vape? You know, we take a puff, we set it down. Even if you're chain vaping, how often do you vape in a minute, Jerry?
Oh God, 3 or 4 hits every, 30 seconds or something like that. I mean,
okay. So it's still there is a use and rest cycle, and yeah. I think what's happening in the majority of these tests is they're putting it in this unrealistic scenario. Nobody's going to continue to vape on a dry coil, which then combusts rather than vaporizes.
But it's data, and people will gravitate to what they think is a study from a reputable research organization,
sure.
The New England Journal of Medicine. It doesn't matter that the methodology, the test methodology was wrong. It's something that they can grab onto because it's data, and we don't have an offset for that. I mean, Dr. Farsalinos is working on a study, but how many people in the general public acknowledge him or who know who he is outside of the vaping community? They have the upper hand. I mean, they could put out faulty studies, but again, it's something people can sink their teeth into.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have the resources to combat it fast enough, or get the word out as pervasive as it needs to be.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. And there's going to be a common theme with me this week here, and usually in most weeks there is. And I can pretty much sum it up as this. I'm pretty aware that vapors as a whole are awfully tired of being preached to about the importance of getting in front of stories and studies just like this one. But let me assure all of you, and believe me, While defense may win Super Bowls, it is not going to win in the legislative arena. We need to get out in front of these stories, and we're not. We are failing in the legislative aspect of advocacy in our business. Look, from lack of funding, lack of participation, from whatever you may call it, if we don't stay out ahead of these studies and keep constantly producing our own that are peer reviewed, things like this will never get discredited in the non-vaping public eye.
Yeah.
And let me ask you something, Dane. Are you addressing vapors as a whole, or the businesses?
Both, because in this industry they are inextricably tied. And while we start to see slight upticks in vendor participation, it's nowhere near what it should be. Nowhere near.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they have, to me, the most to lose. If they get regulated out of business, they're going to have a huge problem, and there's not going to be any customers to go out and fight. I mean, really, we're fighting their battle. Everyone who's vaping right now, they're going to continue to be able to vape. They're going to get their stuff. They know how to do it. It's all the new people. It's all the smokers now that are going to get screwed. They're going to get screwed.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I think you're.
Go ahead.
No, I think that's interesting because we're all stakeholders, but clearly the vendors have the most to lose, and as a business, they have to invest part of their income into this fight because they have more to lose than we do. I mean, like you said, we'll find a way around it if we have to. Like people in some of the countries where vaping's banned, Australia, these guys have found ways around it. But the vendors can't hide from this fight. They have to put some of their money into this because it's the only way. But there's no one body big enough like a tobacco company to put that much money into it on their own. I mean, it's got to be kind of like a network or a crowdfunded scenario, and you know how those things go.
I think I kind of know what you're getting at. There's just no organization where all these vendors are getting together. They don't have one voice. They need one big voice, and there's plenty of vendors out there to make that voice big enough.
Well, they've got a plethora of organizations. The problem is it's not a consolidated voice again. But the other thing too, and I did want to bring this up because I saw an incredible amount of interest today about one particular bill that's in process right now in the state of Indiana. And sadly, I think the reason I saw so much vendor interest is because it affected them more than their customers. And I understand part of that is just business, but at the same time, we're all doing this because we vape. I mean, my dogs are apparently fighting upstairs. I expect to hear yells now. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I might have to go.
His
Let
dogs
somebody
are
else take
attacking
over.
one another.
My
Yeah,
dogs.
it's again, it's the common thing. There's a lot of associations out there, and yes, many and most work with each other within the confines of the big picture, right?
Yeah.
But I think often, and especially in our industry, I like to put the onus back on vapors as well. Ultimately, you decide where you spend your money. You decide who is going to fund these studies and who is not, both directly and indirectly, directly by your participation and indirectly by the very vendors that you frequent. Because if those vendors aren't putting back in to these studies and the development of these studies, then by proxy, aren't we all failing on the back end of this deal?
True. Ed, you've got we need to lighten the mood a little bit.
Yes, we do.
Let's do that. And this pertains to the, what's that thing called again? The straw?
Oh, the straw poll. Yeah, let's
The
go
straw
ahead
poll.
and let's
Link in there.
throw the link back out there in chat.
Vape Bash. Vape Bash 2015. And this is coming from the Vape Bash group, vapebash.com. And what's there is this year Vape Bash 4 will be larger than ever before. The event space itself this year is about 38,250 square feet, which they'll be filling with about 75 vendors. And there's a lot of space for all the attendees to hang out and, of course, have a good time. This part pertains to the hotel. They did say they had a very large block of rooms.
It wasn't that large.
That sold out in less than 24 hours.
Yep.
I personally got I follow all the Facebook stuff and all that. I got an alert. I know better. You get that alert. They go up. Get your room. Any event, if you're thinking about going, get your room. Look at the cancellation policy. It's 48 hours. You got time. So, but it is at the at Pheasant Run. Lost my place. Let's see. It is covered Thursday the 16th through Saturday the 18th. I hear they may be opening up another block of rooms, but I don't know for sure. Let's see. Let's just skip the rest of the hotel stuff because it is at Pheasant Run, which it's all the way at the bottom. The event room hours for the attendees are. This is something else, though. I didn't realize this until my wife Jamie brought it up. It's a 3-day event now.
Yeah.
It is a 3-day event. So it's Thursday the 16th from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. Friday from 12 noon to 2 a.m. and Saturday from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. Maybe wondering why they start 2 hours later on Saturday, because usually the vendors and the attendees enjoy some adult beverages. Many of them.
We can attest to that, can't we, Ed?
Yes, we can.
An external, like many of our viewers, was not paying attention, so we're talking about Vape Bash. Vape Bash is at Pheasant Run.
It's at Pheasant Run, and it's at the bottom here, so we'll get to that.
Yeah.
It does say a little bit different from this year than last year, because the hotels asked all the attendees to refrain from vaping in the lobby, the check-in area, the restaurant, and the hotel bar as a matter of common courtesy to other hotel guests not there for Vape Bash. Yes. Cloud Chasers, this means you. It basically just means you.
Last year, you pretty much couldn't vape anywhere.
No, well, but that was the thing that last year they did have an agreement with the hotel that you could pretty much vape anywhere you wanted. But then the Cloud Chasers came through. And I'm not saying it's only Cloud Chasers, but they get the most attention. So, and let's see. The event will be housed at the Pheasant Run Resort in St. Charles, Illinois. That is approximately 45 minutes from either airport. So set up your transportation now. It's an amazing location. They apparently were incredibly accommodating to the Woody City Vapors Club, hoping everything goes smoothly this year. And they're hoping that this is going to be the home for future vape bashes. Let's wait and see. Okay. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Are you, Dane? Yep. Are you ready to go?
I am. It holds a special place in my heart, and it always will. Vape Bash for me was a blast. I got to meet a lot of people that I never met before, and bringing everybody from across the country like that is a pretty cool thing. And if you haven't experienced Vape Bash, you really need to, because it is absolutely a great event, held in a wonderful city, and there's a lot to do. People from all over. It really is big fun. I enjoyed it.
So, Varos, do you go to any meets?
I haven't had the chance. Just work and family just have. But my wife and I were thinking about going to Vape Bash, actually.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yes. Yeah.
We'd love to have you out there, and definitely maybe go out to dinner or something.
That'd be great.
Lots of good restaurants in the area, and Dane, of course, is old hand in the restaurant business, so he knows the good places to hit.
Yep, and we can all crash on James's couch.
My couch isn't that big, buddy. All right, so we got our next story here.
I shouldn't say that I'm the only one here that actually picked up a room, huh?
Yes, that's right.
Everybody adds room. Everyone adds room.
We need several cots, Mr. Green.
There'll only be one cot in the room. Oh, cot, like you sleep in. My
Oh, don't make me laugh.
It's cranking after hours
the
early
crud.
already.
That's right. All right, so we've got a next story here. This is actually a video we're going to play for you guys.
Woohoo!
Exciting. Oh, I forgot to do my transition. Hey, I'll tell you what, this new version of XSplit, you know what, I shouldn't jinx myself, so I'm just going to stop there.
Yeah, don't do
Here's
it.
the video.
Yeah, it seems like it's working great.
They're not your mother's poison concerns.
Of course kids are going to be attracted to this.
Mr. Yuck has a new target, liquid nicotine, colorful toxic fluid used to fill electronic cigarettes.
He's got it all over him. He's been eating it.
An Oklahoma mother knows the danger. Her 4-year-old son vomited all day. His little body battled withdrawal, a result of liquid nicotine poisoning.
The liquid itself is very sweet.
Last month, a 1-year-old died in New York, the first poison death of its kind. Calls to poison hotlines more than doubled last year. Kids under 6, they're victims in more than half the cases.
It comes off pretty easily.
Vince Wilmore with Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids brought us some nicotine vials.
Let me give it a shot. Not that easy, but if you try long enough, it comes right off. And your point is that this needs to be childproof.
It needs to be childproof, but that's just part of what's needed.
He also wants a restriction on marketing. He's found a partner on Capitol Hill, Florida Senator Bill Nelson.
And this one is Juicy Juice.
Nelson writing legislation for new safety rules. They'd restrict marketing to kids and require childproof packaging. Nelson says it's worth it if even one life is saved.
All right.
Another scary story about the god-awful perils of nicotine in kids. Redundant? Sure. But when you have nothing else of value to offer to the subject, you go for the journalistic gusto of the poor little children. But let me put this whole thing to bed right now. Here's some advice from a vaping grandfather, okay? Keep your fucking children away from potentially harmful chemicals. Period. Oh, and Mr. Yuck? A, nice name, buddy. And B, I'm sure credibility isn't an issue when you carry that moniker around, is it?
Dane's got a potty mouth. It's acceptable. We got to get the beep going for you, buddy.
Yeah, you're a little late on that one.
Oh, man. I'll tell you what. I just don't have any words for this piece. But again, you know what? This is a scary thing. So the Juicy Juice thing, do you remember us having this conversation back on Vape Team Media? You know, months and months ago, we talked about this and what a horrible idea that was. And I think Russ may have actually reached out to that vendor because I know I saw him at a couple of different events. There's some things that are just no-brainers, some things that will have to change down the road. Right now, it's kind of a free-for-all. You can advertise however you want. You can call your juice whatever you want to call it. And I've seen some ridiculous names out there. But, yeah, I don't know, man. This is... Mr. Yuck is an idiot.
Mr. Yuck!
This is a good name. Table Dancer.
Table Dancer?
Table Dancer. That's a good quality name.
It's a high-maintenance juice right there.
High maintenance juice. But right. and I even personally I try my best not to say the word juice. I hate the word. I force myself to say e-liquid.
E-liquid?
Liquid or e-liquid. I hate the word juice. Because I've heard that slang. Oh, it's juice. Kids love juice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah. This is, you know, one of my favorite e-liquid companies actually has e-juice in their name, and that's unfortunate, but simply e-juice. Great stuff, but it's called juice. Oh. All right, so the only other things we have here tonight are going to be just a couple little fun things and then a quick advocacy issue. I was looking over on Thingiverse, and Thingiverse, of course, is a site where you can get 3D printed stuff. You can download the files, pop it into your 3D printer, and pop out an actual accessory of some kind. And over on Thingiverse, they have this Stollies 18650 battery dispenser. This is something I really need to get my hands on because I've got batteries in cases. I use primarily 18650s, and they tend to just roll all over the place willy-nilly. Yeah, that's right. I said willy-nilly.
All right, I just got accused of using the word moniker a lot. You use the word willy-nilly a lot. So we're even.
Among other things. Hey, and one of our lovely listeners did actually say that our titles are switched here, your title and Ed's title, so I'm going to fix that right now. Look at
I
on
want
the
to
fly
be Ed
change.
for a day.
Yours just disappeared.
I was gonna give you a little bit of
What? I could have switched the camera. There we go. How's that?
Does this mean I can make a video on how to make a mod? That would be successful.
Oh, there it goes again. Blow your cloud straight into the air, Dane. So it'll drift into Ed's camera. Let's do that old gag again. That's the old trick. Seamless, gentlemen, as usual. All right, so only other thing we got, here we go. The Titan. This is coming up very soon. This is going to be available for purchase at www.labratliquids.com. The Titan is a 18650 box mod with dual MOSFETs, parallel 18650s. This is the LE version, which I don't even know how to get my hands on one of those, but it sure looks nice. And then the regular version of the box. Dual MOSFETs, parallel 18650s for less than $100. This is kind of a no-brainer. If you're a mech person, this is a perfect device for somebody who wants to do those sub-ohm builds and extreme builds safely. So,
what's the limit on the wattage on that box?
I don't know.
Do you know?
It's going to be crazy low. It's going to be whatever your batteries can handle. I'm sure somebody could help me with that. Jeannie wants to know if our phones are on. No, Jeannie, our phones are not on because I spent $40 a month for 3 months and we got like 4 callers total. So no phones, damn it. That's right.
He did. He finally canceled.
You can always call us via Skype for the after show. Let's see. This is the only other thing I've got. Indiana Senate Bill number 539. This just came up. There is actually going to be a special meeting to discuss Senate Bill 539. I've got some information here. This is via Greg Connolly. Okay. There's a meeting this Sunday, January 25th at 3 p.m. at the Antelope Club at 615 North Delaware in Indianapolis. So let me explain a little bit about what this bill is. Indiana Senate Bill number 539 requires a manufacturer that manufactures, bottles, or stores e-liquid to have a permit issued by the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission, establishes requirements to obtain a permit to manufacture e-liquid, establish penalties for not complying with the terms of the permit, prohibits a retailer from selling e-liquid to a minor that has been purchased from a manufacturer that does not have a permit, okay, that's an important one, or that has been altered or tampered with, allows a permit holder to bring a civil action for violations of the e-liquid laws. So, reading through this bill, it has some purposely vague sections in it, and this could potentially mean that you cannot import or export juice. You can't bring juice in from another state unless they have some sort of a permit for manufacturing liquid in the state of Indiana. So what does this permit entail? A non-refundable initial application fee of $5,000. The permit is valid for 5 years, after which time it will be $1,000 to renew. Plus, it also gives them the right to conduct a state or national background check on anyone listed on the application, and you give them written consent to enter your premises to conduct physical inspections and test e-liquid at will. So all in all, this is something that there is no precedent for this. This hasn't been done in any other state, and it's something we really have to be vigilant with. So
yeah, there is no allowance in here for residency. Absolutely none. So if you're an e-liquid manufacturer that has a heavy customer base in Indiana and you apply for a permit to sell in Indiana, they have every right to deny you. Talk about keeping tax dollars in their own state. Yeah,
if they deny you, they get to keep the $5,000. So bully for them, right?
Write it off as a charitable donation.
Yeah. Well, sadly, we are out of time. Varos, any final words here this evening? We're very glad you could be with us tonight, and I apologize. It's been kind of a crazy show. We had to rush from topic to topic here.
No, I just thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. Something I don't get to do often, so it's kind of it's a blast. So again, thanks very much for having me.
And your website, of course, your website has links to your YouTube videos. I was trying to find a good clickable link for the YouTube channel to put in there, but I think you still got like the numbers at the end of your name. So
Yeah.
Varos Vapor. I know mine is really weird. Mine is like Angry Silverfish. It doesn't even make sense. It should just be like Uncle Dagger or something, but I wasn't thinking about
make sense.
Doing
VarosVapor.com. It's just a site where I throw up all my videos. There's not much else there, but you can get to them from there.
There you go. So VarosVapor.com. Thank you very much for being with us tonight, sir. You're welcome to join us for the after show if you'd like to. I understand if you don't have time, but we normally transition at this point over to the after show.
Sure. I'll hang around a bit if you want.
Okay. Great.
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah, I highly recommend checking out his videos. They helped a great deal. For people who don't build much and who are unfamiliar with putting devices together from nothing, it's definitely quality viewing. It helped me out immensely. I can't tell you. I put that K-Fun Mini together. Otherwise, it would still be sitting in a drawer.
Any final words tonight, Dane?
No, just that common theme. Well, I guess, yes, there is then. Remember, defenses win Super Bowls, right? But they don't win in the legislative arena. Get out in front of the state and local legislators now. Because if you don't do it now, the FDA will be a moot point. They will not undo regulation that's already done at the municipal level. Get out there. Get heard. You don't know who to contact? Ask Greg Connolly. Flood him. That's who I'm going to pick on. Flood Greg Connolly. He'll put you in touch with someone who will get you out to the right people.
We need to get we need to get Greg's personal phone number so we can throw that out on the screen for people.
That's true.
Okay, Ed, any last words here? I have no audio from you, but it's hilarious watching you talk with no audio.
He does have no audio.
You still don't. Now I can hear you.
There we go.
Yes.
Go to vaporsplace.com. Click on VP Live. You will hear a replay of James and I on VP Live from just this past Sunday. We were on there having a good time with Kevin and Dino. James, are you going to be giving away any more mods?
Yes,
soon?
in the after show. Yep.
In the after show?
I don't publicize that. Hey, we talked to the people in the after show. They didn't want me to publicize the mod giveaways.
Well,
we don't want to bring more people over there. That part of the show doesn't need any more exposure. It's already got too much exposure, if you know what I mean.
We'll talk on the afterwards. I got a night. Maybe something we can do for this. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe. Kind of, sort of. All right.
Maybe. So what Dane said. Yeah. Play football. Come on.
Play six. Get involved.
Way to simplify it. All right, everybody. That's it for this portion of the show. As always, thank you for joining us. We will see you next Tuesday. Hopefully, I will be able to vape next Tuesday because this is damn frustrating, man. I got all these delicious vapes around me, and I can't use them because I'm sick.
Stay tuned for Uncle Dagger's Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Tuesdays with Maury. Tuesdays with Uncle Dagger. All right. So after show, if you would wish to join us, please follow the link viewable on the screen above, and we will see you next week, folks. And that's our show. I don't really have an outro. I have Peter Dinklage. All right. Good night, everybody.